Punched my wife's best friend when she tried to seduce me. Now she's spreading false rape rumors and my wife is devastated. I've, 35 male, been with my beautiful wife, 34F, for close to 10 years. We have no kids as of now. My wife's best friend, Amy, has been friends with my wife for about 15 years, all throughout college where I originally met my wife. Me and Amy haven't ever been the best of friends, however we've been cordial for the sake of my wife. I've always found her to be obnoxious, loud and entitled. The kind that inserts herself into any and every conversation, whether that be on a night out with friends or a private conversation. For example, myself and my best friend were talking about fertility issues in his marriage during a dinner with our longtime friends. We were quiet enough so that nobody could hear us over the chatter, yet she found a way to be nosy and make a comment on how she would kill herself if she couldn't do the one thing a woman was made to do. This pissed off my best friend, Max, and his wife to the point where they excused themselves and left early to go home. Now on to the actual situation at hand. Amy's boyfriend, Khalid, had left her due to her annoying personality. I think it was more of a build-up, but what set him off was when Amy purposely did not feed their dog while he was on a work trip because he was sleeping while she was drunk and calling him to collect her. That's only the tip of the iceberg. Amy has always been weird with me. She has constantly tried to DM me on Instagram, trying to make conversation about gossip in our friend group or completely random things. I have always ignored her. My wife has always seen past her strange behavior. She refused to believe her dearest best friend would have ill intentions. Anyway, after their breakup, Amy came over to our house to see my wife. My wife was feeling ill on this day, so she took pills to help her sleep and fell asleep in a matter of an hour. I could not ask Amy to leave in the state she was in, so for my wife I suggested she could sleep in the guest bedroom. She agreed and went to bed. I was in the kitchen cleaning up after dinner and she waltzed into the kitchen with nothing but undergarments on. She acted shocked and claimed she didn't know I was still in the kitchen. I felt extremely uncomfortable and decided to call it a night. However, she started stripping and approaching me, telling me how my wife doesn't have to know and she's seen the way I've looked at her. I was completely baffled and told her she's gotten the wrong idea and to be ashamed to do this to her own best friend while I try to scurry out of the kitchen. However, she practically leapt in front of me and touched my privates. Without a second thought, I hit her. I know I could have easily pushed her, but in the moment I panicked and punched her in the face. Her eye was left bruised. She started wailing, enough that my wife woke up and stumbled in the kitchen to see her best friend, naked and bruised. She then went on about how I tried to rape her and that I'm a disgusting human being and she should divorce me. I snapped back that she approached me, naked, and a rejection wasn't enough for her to back off, so I punched her, hence the bruise. My wife didn't say anything. Instead she fainted and I immediately brought her to the hospital. My wife is now okay but refuses to talk to me about what happened. On the other hand, Amy has now accused me of attempting to have sex with her in our friend group. The majority of people don't believe her, but there's a few who live by always believe a rape accusation. The other half told me I fucked up by punching her and fueling this anger. Amy has ruined my life. I'm afraid my wife will divorce me and this goes to court. I've already contemplated suicide many times. I don't know where to go from here. What do I do? Where do I go from here? Any advice is appreciated. Edit. I know this story sounds absurd and I wish it were fake, but it is not. The unnecessary details were brought in to point an overall picture of her character. I guess it is worth mentioning my wife feels like she owes her life to Amy for getting her out of an abusive household when they were teenagers. They are practically like sisters. Amy was also not drunk. Edit 2. A few things I would like to clarify to avoid confusion. Amy claims to have gone to the kitchen to get a glass of water not knowing I was still there. She then claims I took advantage of her. This incident happened at approximately 3 a.m. It is now 8 a.m. She came up with this story and posted it in our group chat right after she went back home. Majority of our friend group have to get up early for their responsibilities, hence how this misinformation has spread like wildfire. I have been getting individuals' DMs on advice and opinions since where I've concluded the majority are on my side. Some say I shouldn't have punched her and the rest believe her. My wife has been up all night and refuses to talk to me. I have not tried to push her to talk to me. For now, she needs time to process it. I'm contemplating on texting her ex, Khalid, who left her, and try asking him if she's done anything similar to his knowledge. He may be able to make my story more believable based on a factual pattern of behavior rather than word against word. Just not sure if it's a good idea. I try to understand her really. She has known Amy longer and Amy has helped her get through pretty deep stuff in their teens. I know my wife has her reasons for reacting the way she did. But it is getting tiring trying to compete with her best friend. Update 1. First of all, I want to thank everyone for their support, input and advice which I have used profusely in this situation. On the other hand, a lot of people thought this story was fake or some sort of gross fantasy. It was not. I am still suffering the aftermath of what has happened. I have not slept nor ate since. For the people Ho proceeded to say I should have had sex with Amy or me calling me a sicko, I truly hope you find peace in your lives. And to the comments calling me an which were interestingly mostly from men, I truly hope you treat the women in your life with the same respect and equality they deserve. Now on to the update. A lot has happened in the past 9 hours. Someone made a suggestion to text Khalid and so I did. Khalid was just as distraught as me and admitted that this was in fact not the first time she has screamed rape, just like some of you had suspected. She has threatened to scream rape to use Khalid to stay in the relationship with her. He got out of it by installing cameras without her knowledge and contacting a lawyer in case she went through with her claims. This worked in my favor. He was very supportive and sympathetic. I confronted Amy with all the fallacies in her story and mentioned the existing evidence Khalid still had if she was interested in taking her claims to the court. She panicked and told me no. Apologized and said she wasn't in her right mind after the breakup. I got her to admit this in the group chat as I am not interested in false rumors spreading about me in case someone was still unsure of the situation. She shortly left the GC and has cut off contact with everyone. In other words, has become unreachable. I explained to my wife what had happened. She had seen all the messages with her confession anyway. My wife told me she genuinely didn't know who to believe and was contemplating divorce in that moment. I was heartbroken. I told her I needed time to process everything that had happened in the past 14 hours. I will be sleeping in the guest bedroom tonight. I am happy she believes me now, but it doesn't sit well with me that it took an actual confession out of Amy for my wife to side with me. I have been with my wife for 10 years and would expect her to know me better than that. But at the same time, she didn't know Amy was capable of something like this in 15 years. My marriage has definitely taken a hit with this situation. Although I love my wife and have seen past every other time she has defended Amy, this situation is something I can't get over overnight. I thank you all for helping me navigate this situation. Edit, I am very aware and understanding of my wife's situation. She feels indebted to Amy and there's definitely power play at hand. However, my wife has laughed off the incident and dismissed the fact of how traumatizing it was for me. She still refuses to see Amy as the villain and is blaming it on the emotional heartbreak of her breakup. Oop, I agree with you. I could not move past that. I will let yous know what happens with myself and my wife. We're currently figuring things out. She is begging me not to talk to a lawyer, but I will not budge. Amy has done enough damage. Update 2. So it's been a bit over 2 months since the incident occurred. Needless to say, it's been a hectic 2 months. In short, my wife's best friend, Amy, forced herself onto me. I hit her. She accused me of SA. Wife believed Amy until she was backed into a corner and confessed to the truth. Wife didn't give much importance when it came to me and proceeded to laugh it off and call it a big misunderstanding. Now for the actual update. I tried to make it work. I really did. For 2 months I tried to brush it off and dealt with wife still having frequent hangouts with Amy and telling me about them all excitedly as if her own best friend didn't just try to have sex with me. However, the last straw was a few days ago where my wife was telling me how her and Amy are planning a trip to Greece for the summer holidays and how she can't wait to finally have a break from life's stresses. I simply said nothing and walked away from her. She followed me and asked me if everything was okay, and I straight up told her how I can't believe she would dismiss the fact that Amy accused me of rape when in actual fact he forced herself onto me, and how when it came to Amy, she believed her and was willing to divorce me on the spot, but when it came to me, she brushes it off and continues to have her girly hangouts with the very friend who tried to destroy our marriage. I blatantly told her she doesn't care for me. My wife started bursting into tears and had the audacity to ask me at that again? Why can't you just get over it? I don't know why I thought she would have listened now. I had enough at that point and told her we're getting a divorce. Walked away and started to pack my suitcase as she tried her hardest to stop me. Pulling my shirt, hitting me, throwing things, going from calling me names to begging me to stay. I walked out and am now staying at a hotel while her and her family blow up my phone. I don't know what to do. Update 3. Some of you mentioned it was a setup or some sort of test from the start. This could be a possibility as my wife never wakes up that easily after taking sleeping pills, and it's likely she brushed it off due to the guilt. Still though, it was uncalled for, and her mentioning divorce over a rape accusation she knew was fake just makes it worse. Thank you for all of your kindness and support. Update 4. It's been close to 5 months since my last post. Needless to say, I am officially divorced. My ex-wife was cooperative, but of course there was reasons as to why she was so cooperative. To not tarnish what's left of her reputation. Definitely could not afford to make it any longer than it was, and everything was in my name anyways. Quite a few of you had conspiracy theories on what really was going on underneath the surface. I'm still unsure of whether the whole incident was premeditated. That's something she refuses to admit to. But I did confirm, however, that my wife was involved in God knows how many year-long affair with a married man. Turns out our relationship was never real nor genuine to her. I was just a means to leech off of while she satisfied her own desires. I'm not too sure if Amy was involved in this affair, but I know she's known, and this whole incident was probably to file a case against me and take my money. I don't know at this point, and quite frankly I don't want to know. I'm broken, and even writing this post, this is all I have because my mind is just blanking out. Feel free to ask any questions in the comments and I'd be happy to answer. Thank you all for your love and support. Oop, it is indeed that guy. I'm not sure about her. I don't think she's divorced him. At my current state, with all the court proceedings and emotional burnout from the divorce and events ensued leading up to it, I don't plan on taking action for the time being. Oop, I honestly think she will take it to her grave. Who knows, maybe she'll want to clear her conscience one day. Now on to second story. Ruined my parents' wedding by exposing their neglect online after they forgot to include me in any part of it. I, 17F, was recently forgotten about on the day of my parents' wedding. My parents have been together for about 25 years, but they never actually got married. That's why when my dad, 50 male, proposed to my mother 49F on their anniversary, which they have always celebrated on the date my mother found out she was pregnant with my eldest sister, even tough they were already together before, everyone, including me, was elated and celebrated the occasion with great joy. This happened all the way back in February. They immediately jumped into wedding planning, deciding very early on a small event in Hawaii with just the closest family and friends for an intimate ceremony. Almost immediately my mother asked my sister, 25F, to be her maid of honor, and my dad asked my brother, 22 meters, to be his groomsman. I wasn't surprised or offended by this. My sister had always been a mommy's girl and they both enjoyed spending time with each other, shopping and socializing, so they had a very close bond, and the same goes for my father and brother. They always played football together and messed around with cars. My father even trained my brother's team for a while in middle school. That had always left me as the odd one out. I tried to insert myself on my family's hobbies and groups that they had within our home, but was always rebuffed. Maybe they could sense that my interest on their activities wasn't all that genuine, or maybe they just didn't care. Either way, I was used to being the last and least important member of my family. Mom had sis and dad had bro. My parents had each other, and my two siblings were closer to each other than they ever were to me, leaving me very lonely and isolated in my own home. During the preparation for the wedding, initially it was suggested that I be the flower girl, but my sister thought that role would be more appropriate for her daughter, 3F, so that idea was quickly tossed away. Later on, my maternal grandmother suggested that I might read a poem or do a little bit of a speech during the ceremony, but both my parents refused because they wanted the wedding to be low-key, and they didn't think a cheesy and sappy speech would fit their vision, their literal words. I was still okay with all of this, even though it hurt to know I would be the only member of the family to not actually be part of the wedding party or have any role at all on the day. As the day approached, my parents and siblings got more and more caught up on all the wedding planning. I noticed my mom didn't invite me dress shopping, and that whenever they would have discussions about the venue or the event, I was left out, so I decided to see if they would realize that I wasn't being involved at all, and kept quiet, waiting for them to ask me something, anything, about the wedding, but that never happened. The wedding was set for 3 weeks ago, the end of August. The day before the departure, my mother casually asked if I had my luggage ready because we couldn't be late to the airport. I bluntly told her that I hadn't prepared anything. She got confused for a second and then snapped at me for not being prepared. I then asked her if I even had a ticket, and her face went pale. Yep, they hadn't even bought me a ticket, and I'm not even sure if I had a room or any accommodations once there. Even though I was the only person in my family without unstable income, I work as a part-time babysitter. My parents had bought first-class tickets for my siblings and a couple other friends that were attending the wedding but had forgotten me. My mom told me not to make a big deal out of it and that they can just find me a low-cost ticket last minute from a cheap airline, but I just replied by asking her, then what? Do I even have a dress for the ceremony? She went with sis to buy hers and all the other female guests months ago, but I wasn't included. That's when my father came in and just told me to suck it up and that I've never been a girly girl, so I could just wear whatever. I got mad at this because, even though I'm not the most feminine girl on the planet, I would have loved to be included in such an important part of my parents' wedding, and it was about the fact that I was excluded for literally everything that had been going on for months. We all got into a fight with them, calling me entitled and accusing me of making myself small intentionally so they would forget me, like that is a valid excuse for ignoring a child. They ended up telling me that if I was going to keep this attitude I might as well skip the whole thing altogether, to which I responded with a defiant fine and went to my room. Next morning they all left for Hawaii without me. The ceremony was really small, but they all posted loads of pictures on Insta and Facebook about how perfect and magical that whole week was being. People realized quickly that I wasn't in any of the photos and asked my parents why, to which they replied that unfortunately I had caught COVID before the trip and had to stay behind. My blood boiled at this. I don't know why this was the straw that broke the camel back for me, but it was. I decided to take a COVID test and published a picture of myself holding the negative test and captioned it, "Not sick at all, just forgotten." I tagged everyone that had questioned my absence from the trip and the wedding in the picture and, for good measure, also every person invited to it. I also wrote in the comments about how my parents had literally forgotten about anything to do with me until the day before parting and how they actually uninvited me. Most people were on my side and others couldn't believe it and thought there must be something more to the story than what I was saying, but one thing is for certain, I completely ruined my parents' wedding, and their day was overshadowed by my confession. At first I felt quite satisfied with myself for standing up on my own, but after a barrage of messages from my family calling me every name in the book, and later, when they came back, them furiously attacking me for my immature actions and my spoiled behavior, my pride deflated quickly, and I began to feel awful. I hate my family, and I hate being in this house, but I'm a minor and can't leave just yet. I do feel like I could have handled the situation better though, and now I feel so depressed that I'm second guessing everything I did, from not speaking up before to the way I exposed them. I also feel guilty for the lack of connection between all of my family and me, and maybe I could have done more? So Ada, for ruining my parents' wedding when they forgot about me? Oop, I'm sorry for you and that we are on the same boat. I want to move out, but I have no place to go now. I had a summer job besides babysitting and I've been saving up some money, but I live in a very expensive city and I need another job before I can plan anything. Oop, I know that's what I should be doing. I do have a friend that is moving to a studio apartment near our college, but I don't have a job at the moment and I don't want to be a burden to her. She and I are close, so I'm sure she would offer for me to move in with her, but I don't want to be a burden. Also, I don't have a job at the moment, so I couldn't pay rent, so that's something else I need to do at the moment. Update 1. First of all, let me start by thanking all that commented on my post and shared their own experiences or points of view on my situation. Thank you so much. A few days ago I could barely find the energy to get out of bed and my family's comments had made me really believe that I was guilty for all that had passed, but after seeing the responses to my post and all the support you guys were giving me, I felt somewhat reaffirmed in my actions and feelings towards my family. I'm still fighting the feelings of guilt and depression, but whenever I start to spiral I think on how much this community of strangers has had my back and I try to calm myself down with your words. Thanks to your input and advice I finally decided to call my grandma and tell her the full story. Just to clarify a point before going on, I said this in the comments, but I feel like I should put it here also. My grandma 77F did not attend the wedding. She lives several states away and has mobility issues, so she doesn't travel anymore. We went to visit her around Easter and that's when she commented that I might read a poem at the ceremony, but that was the last time I saw her in person before all this. She's always been very loving to me and has called out my parents in the past for their favoritism, but it's hard for her to play a more active role in my upbringing since she lives so far, and I am always worried about bothering her due to her age and health condition. She had a minor stroke a few years back and is now back to normal, but I still worry. Anyway, I called her and laid out everything that had happened with the wedding and how my parents didn't even buy me a ticket to go with them. She came to the same conclusion that most commenters did when I told her that it was simply impossible, that they had forgotten and that they did it on purpose. I cried on the phone with her, laying out how I was feeling, how this has been going on forever, how I feel in the aftermath, and most importantly about my need to get out. She was extremely sweet and comforting to me and told me that I had nothing else to worry about because she had my back 100% and told me to take it easy but make plans for my future and that she'd help me. After that conversation, which lasted about 2 hours, I felt better, and I decided to listen to her and start moving to figure something out for the next school year. I have a friend who is going to lease a studio next to our future campus. She has a great relationship with her parents, but she has 5 younger siblings and wants to be more independent, so that's why she decided to move out. I asked her if I could move in with her temporarily and that I would pay her rent as soon as I got a job. She immediately accepted and told me not to worry about rent or anything else until I was in a better position, and we had a good cry together when I told her all about my parents' wedding incident. So this all happened a couple days ago, and I was planning on doing the update then, but my grandma called my parents and my siblings to lecture them about how they were treating me. My brother just sent me a text afterwards with a half-hearted apologize saying that he didn't know I wasn't included and that he just thought I wouldn't have fun on the trip, and then I posted the pic just to create drama. My sister on the other hand berated me and told me that I kept trying to make public my own problems and pinning them on my family when they are all innocent. It has been weird with my parents ever since they came back from the trip, and at first they berated me and were furious with me, and after that, we've just been ignoring each other. After my grandma they came into my room telling me that if I wanted to put this whole issue to rest I should shut up about it and that this could all had already blown over if only I had kept my mouth shut. I just asked them to leave my room and then I called my grandma again to tell her what had gone down. She then told me that she and my uncle had bought plane tickets to come down to see me. This was something that I was actually scared about because my grandma's health is not the best and this kind of effort is a lot for her, and I know how complicated it is for her to get on a plane, so I tried to dissuade her from coming and told her everything would be okay, but she wouldn't listen and told me that she was long overdue a conversation with my parents and that she wanted to see me. I'm stressed for her, and I feel again like I forced her to take a long uncomfortable trip because of me and that maybe I should have dealt with this myself. I do want to see her, and I wish for nothing more than to hug her right now, but I'm worried about her. At least my uncle, Mom's older brother, is coming with her, but I hope she doesn't exhaust herself or nothing happens to her because that would break me. They arrive tomorrow and have not informed my parents of their trip. My grandma asked me to keep it until she gets here. I hope she is able to make my parents see the mistake in their actions or, at the very least, help me break the news to them that I'm moving out very soon, and I plan on being no contact with them. I don't know, I'm worried about her having to do so much for me and bothering her, but I also appreciate and love her so much for doing all this for me.